What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Childish. We're back at it again with that next episode of Educate and Dominate, that one-on-one interview series where we take some of the top names in the game, get their insights so we can take your game to the next level. My next guest is one of the top dogs in Malicious, the top guild on the global server, Guardian 3 ranked player, Berk420. Berk, how we doing today, man?
Hey, what's good, man?
What's good is we're here, we're getting it done, and I love Bird, so I love birds. We have to talk about that one here in a second here, but
Uh,
I'm curious about that. But for those that don't know, Malicious has been one of the top guilds for quite some time, and between Burke, Mevert, and quite a few other people out there, they're generally in that Guardian 3 ranks, doing it big as always. Burke, a lot of people have seen you, but a lot of people don't know the background on you. So can you kind of give us a little filler in on what's going on with you? How did you get into just games in general, and then what made your way into Summoners War?
all right. Games in general. Let's see. As a kid, I played Magic. There's that. But as far as video games, let's see. I wasn't that big of a gamer as a kid. I mean, I had a Sega Genesis. My parents mainly said, "Hey, go outside, go ball or something," you know.
Yep.
So, but my friend had like every Nintendo console there was, so I go to his pad, play there, and I guess my favorite. I played the whole gamut of console games growing up in the '90s, but my favorite had to be the NBA Live series.
All right, a
I
sports
was I
guy.
was always
Okay.
yeah, I was always into the sports games, Madden, FIFA, and then let's see, but in around 2003 that switched when I got into 2K13. I switched to the 2K series because it was just better. But yeah, I've always been a sports games fan. It wasn't until recently that I got into some of these other unit fighting games. I played a mobile game called Geomon. It's now shut down, but it was a really fun game. Basically, it was like a generic Pokemon game, but it was GPS based, so like based on time or where you were, you could find different units, which I thought was really cool. So after they shut down, I was devastated. I moved on to WoW for about a year. My friend got me into it mainly because she sold me on the whole pet battling aspect of it, and then I got into the actual game. Got into PvP. I got like a 1950 rating, and then after a year, I just got bored and quit the game. And then I stumbled upon Summoner's War, and it's been my Jumon replacement, and I've been hooked since.
Good deal. And then, when you got into Summoners War, how'd you go about finding clan militias, or how'd you get on board with them?
Uh, all right. So at the time, I was in channel 8088, the Reddit channel, and when they first announced that let's see, actually no, it was before that. It was like a couple weeks before the Asia split actually. Streak and Zephyr were forming a new guild, and they were recruiting people. And I was actually the only sub level 40 in a guild full of 40, some of which were guardians. I was like in the 30s, and I was like C2, C3 at the time. And the only reason they recruited me was because of my Chow, to be honest. I had a Chow at the time. It was a speed HP with 100 crit rate from subs, and everyone in the channel was using it for giants. And I had an AD at the time, which in retrospect was a horrible idea. But yeah, the Chow was just really overrated, and because of that Chow, I got recruited in the guild of guys that were way better than me, and from there I just learned from them. I owe it all to this Chow that I haven't even touched in months.
Gotcha.
It, and the reason I say he's not good for PvP is because he's basically like Carmelo Anthony, like yeah, he can do everything, but he does it all himself, he'll just stand there, watch his teammates die, contribute nothing, and then try to solo the team. And if your team sucks, if you're just starting out, yeah, Charles a godsend, but once you get to like C3 and up, you hit a wall. You can only go so far with one guy trying to carry your whole team.
Gotcha. And then, as you're talking about climbing on the way up there, how do I say, what were some of the you know key tips and tricks that you've learned along the way to, kind of progress without, I mean, obviously child plays a, big important role, but,
Yeah.
in addition to that, is there anything else that you've learned along the way that, has helped that out?
Uh, okay, yeah, there's a few things. The biggest thing is, if at all possible, try not to waste too much money on or too many crystals on premium packs. I understand when you're new and you need excited summoning things and you need units. Yeah, it's okay to do it a couple times, but there's a lot of good farmable units and 3-star units that you can get off of unknown scrolls, and mystic scrolls will drop here and there. You really don't need to summon too much. It's a lot better to just use those crystals on refills, or even if you're like shock refreshing, if you have enough mana for mystic scrolls there or whatever um, runes might pop up. If you're at least level, I think 29, or or the high 20s, I've heard, you start seeing 6-star runes, and then from there, that makes a huge difference. A farmable 3-star unit with solid runes is a lot stronger than a 5-star unit with weak runes. And and not only that, but even if you do summon, rare 5-stars, it takes Devilmon to skill those guys up. Some of them require like what, 15, 16, 17 Devilmon. That takes a while to save up.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous
You
like
get,
that.
you get like one a week from Arena. Eventually you'll get one or two from TOA, and then if you're pay to play, you can get a few more from the various packs, and even those are expensive as hell. But no matter what, even if you're a heavy pay to pay player, um, there's finite Devilmon, and there's only so much you can do, and there's only so many Nat 5s you can fully skill at a time. But overall, it's better to just spend your crystals, refreshing, farming more runes, leveling up your guys if you're still in that process, and just building your team. Don't worry about Nat 5s or even some of the Nat 4s. Just when they come, they come.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that you say that. That people have no idea how many of the top 100, have 2 to 3 or even sometimes 4 of the units. They're generally just decked out 3 stars or 4-star naturals.
Yeah.
They think that everyone's it's all 5 stars up there. Mind you, there's obviously some good ones when you get them. They're so good. They're kit so well that you have to put them on board. But there's still a great handful of people that are doing great in the Guardian 2, and even Guardian 3 ranks with 3 and 4 stars naturals. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I've pulled 5 Nat 5s in my time, and I only use one ever. Or I've only used one in like the past few months, and that's Veluel. But I have Chow still out with horrible runes just for friends to use in Giants once in a while. And then I have like 3 more that in storage that I haven't even touched in forever. Raki, who I used to use, but you know, I don't have a need for her anymore now that I have Lucians, and Escher can honestly do the job. Any DPS can do the job, and I have Ariel and the Water Polar Queen, and I haven't even built or I haven't even 6-starred or awakened those guys yet. It's just I don't need to, because I'm not going to invest the Devilmon into them. I have enough units to worry about. I still have Galleon to Devilmon. I still have other units to build that I can skill up easily. It's not worth it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, that's true for sure. With regards to your arena defense and arena offense, there's a question that I get commonly asked from some of the people that have played with you well at the ranks. What is your favorite kind of arena offense when you kind of get out there, and then of course your arena defense as well. Can you talk about that? Because it seems like you got a couple of different arena defense setups that you like to use around the week.
Yeah. Okay, for arena. Well, first off, my priority is Guild Wars, so my best violent speed runes are on Veramos, Vertihile, and Belladion, from Monday through Saturday. So on Sundays I have my violent Chloe, or Vile Will Chloe, but and I move the runes over to her. But Monday through Saturday, I can't use her because honestly, she doesn't have the runes, you know, and I don't care about my rank during the week, as much as I care about winning in Guild War defense. So she's naked, and I have to substitute in the process. But it also works out because I don't want to give people free access to practice on my AD 7 days a week. Because but then by the time Sunday comes along, everyone knows exactly how to counter it. Especially since I revenge so much, you know. So I use Monday through Saturday to just toy around with different experimental lineups that could be useful in the future. At the moment, I have Tyrone, Verde, Bernard, and Bella. Just because I'm like, screw it, I'll throw in some fast guys and see what happens. But yeah, well, a lot of times what I like to do is one of my Guild War defenses is which we'll talk about later, is um Veramos, Verde, and Bella, and I like to use those three plus various other guys as a fourth to play around in defense because those three have a lot of synergy, and the way I have them timed, Bella goes first, followed by Veramos, followed by Verde, all within like a couple points of speed. So, you know, potentially I'll get a deep break followed by Veramos either stunning or hitting someone with the deep break pretty hard, followed by Verde hitting a deep break guy, and then getting more turns for whoever for the rest, and then bring up whoever the fourth guy is. And see, sometimes it's Escher, because it's a second heal, even though he's kind of weak and he's an easy finisher. Sometimes it's Bernard, just because it's extra speed insurance in case someone tries to bring a fast Chloe against me. And then I try around with other guys. I have a Darien that I bring out that's like shield revenge in case someone's like Lucianing me, because there's a couple guys out there that just spam Lucien, double Lucien in offense, and I'm guilty of that too. I'm one of them. But when guys like FZA, whoever, they're just spamming the double Lucien teams, you got to have counters, or else they're just gonna farm your points fast. So you try to bring out Lucien traps, and I mean the other three are kind of like that too, because Veramos and Bella have Nemesis, and Verde has Revenge. So it's like, no matter who you hit, there's a chance something's gonna happen. I like to do that on defense a lot. I like to have everyone on either Revenge or Nemesis, because that way it's like, they gotta attack someone, and if you have like one guy on Revenge or one guy on Nemesis, they can avoid him. You put like a Darien or Jubel on Revenge, they're just gonna be like, okay, I'm not gonna hit this guy, I'll hit someone else. But if you put everyone on Revenge or Nemesis, they're fucked no matter what.
Right. That's definitely something I was going to get about. Some of these unique units that you're not, not a lot of people see. The shield or shield revenge one is very nice. We've talked about traps before and how to counter, especially people that love to utilize Lucians. Now, speaking of which, I kind of wanted to just use that part to kind of segue into our next topic, which is kind of a trending thing going on right now with regards to the meta and utilizing units with a little bit of extra speed. So I neglected to go over the units because I kind of wanted to showcase them as we're talking about them. So can you kind of get into your thought process behind setting up the Lucians the way you do, and how you utilize it to your advantage?
Yeah. Basically, the traditional way is to go attack, crit damage, attack, and then run it with something like Chloe, or before it used to be Bernard, Megan, Lucian. But then the problem with the latter is that the ATB changes made it so that now you can't steal turns unless you have more speed than the other unit. So the double speed boosting didn't work because then Chloe's would be cutting in.
Right.
Um, and the problem with using Chloe as the lead and going Chloe Seek in double Lucian is then you're slow as hell, and then so other Chloes can just cut in, and then you're stuck waiting, or anything can happen at that time. You can get stripped of your shield. I don't want to take that risk.
Right. Definitely.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. With speed on Rune 2, suddenly you as long as they're with it at least a 70% of Bernard's speed, you know, you can just go Bernard, Seek, Lucien, and then as long as the Bernard's faster than opposing Chloe's, um, and Lucien's, then the Lucien should be able to go first, unless the Chloe is like so close to Bernard that she gains a full ATB bar just from the tick. I'm
Gotcha.
not completely sure how many speed points a tick is, but there is a small margin where if you know it's another Bernard or Chloe that's like right below, then they can cut in still.
All right. And so let's kind of break that down because again, as we got a lot of top players, mid to late game players, we do have a lot of beginner players that are just kind of curious on how that is. So, you mentioned that your goal is to get your Lucians to about 70% of the speed. Uh, match to be 70% of his total speed. So
Yeah,
is that? I mean, tell me the trick on that. Is it because when he hits his attack gauge bar, it basically gets everybody. It gets those two to full attack gauge. What's the theory
yeah.
by that there?
Basically, Tailwind increases the attack bar by 30%. So if they have 70% of his speed and he Tailwinds, that gets them to the full ATB. So that way, he goes first. As long as Bernard has more speed than anyone on the opposing team, he'll go first. You tailwind first, and if everyone else has at least 70% of his speed, they'll go first.
Good deal. So
Again, unless they're within like a tick's speed behind.
right, and so with regards to the changes that they've made with the attack bar boosting, even though at this stage of the game, you can't just get away with the attack bar boost. What you're saying is that when everybody's at, let's say if everybody's at the attack bar, at the max attack bar, the person with the most speed, total speed, is going to be going first, or is that
Exactly,
okay?
exactly. Before it used to be whoever got there last got to go first. Whoever reached whoever reached a full attack bar last got to steal the turn. Now, when everyone's full, or when there's more than one unit full, the priority goes to whoever has more speed, which is also useful for the Lucians against Nemesis traps, because people like to ruin guys like Vermos, sometimes even Praha, Nemesis as traps. Um, and then with traditional slow Lucians, you hit them once with one Lucian, then suddenly they have a whole bunch of ATB and faster speed. They cut in before the other Lucian and heal or stun or whatever, and then it ruins the combo. But when you have speed on Lucian, suddenly it's a lot harder to cut in with Nemesis because you need a lot more speed on that Nemesis counter to be able to cut in like that.
Cool. And let's kind of break it down for the people that are probably hanging around in the Conquer One, Conquer Two. This is definitely an advanced level kind of concept that you utilize in your end game. Can somebody in the Conquer One, Conquer Two take advantage of maybe they only have 200 speed on their Bernard? Can they take advantage of having if they have two Lucius to bring it down to 70%? Or do you? I mean, is it just better for them to deal with utilizing a Chloe because at that stage of the game a lot of people do have those 220, 230 Chloes or whatnot. What do you think is more important for them to kind of utilize at their ranks?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend the speed Lucians unless you can fulfill all the requirements, which is basically Seek and both Lucians have to be 70%. Seek going slightly faster than the Lucians, and the Lucians have to have 70% crit rate and respectable crit damage. If you can do that, then by all means I would recommend it. But if not, there's no point in putting it together if you can't fulfill all that because if you don't have the crit rate, for example, then you're gambling.
Cool. All right. And one of the other unique units that a lot of people might have seen along the way is something that you never see a lot of people use, but you do throw them in your mix a little bit here with the your teams and whatnot. Is your Miho, the Dark Martial Cat. So tell me a little bit about this unit, how you went about setting it up, and then how what's the pros and cons, and how you find it useful for you in either arena offense or arena defense.
All right. With Miho, when I first got her, I looked at the tier list and they rated her nil. They had like the standard S A, B, C ratings, and then they had a nil, which basically meant this monster is garbage. Uh, no rune recommendations, just use it as food. But I looked at her skill set, and it actually wasn't that bad. I mean, the first two skills are pretty good. There's a stun on skill one, which is always useful. Skill two reduces the ATB, which can be abused at times. But the third was really what really stood out to me. Counterattacks with a critical hit if you're attacked with a critical hit. And it increases her ATB. And my first thought was, hey, this could be a counter for Amon. At the time I was still a Conqueror level player, and I was still seeing plenty of light war bear or bearmen on various ADs, and all of them are ruined with 100 or near 100 crit rate because it's they're passive and whatnot. So, and because of the AI, he's always going to attack the lone dark monster on your team if there are no, even if you have other ones, she has such low HP, she's always going to be the target. So Amen will hit her with a crit, and then she'll respond with a crit, and then speed up, and then crit him again. And basically, she can single-handedly wipe him out. And so that was how I first built her. And then after that, it worked out pretty well. But I noticed it also worked against the rest of the light trio, Bella and Darian. More so Darian, because he tends to have higher crit. But yeah, basically she made a good dark tank for most light units except for Escher because he can one hit her. But yeah, the downside is basically she has really low HP and really horrible stats in general. That's why martial cats get such a bad rap because her stats are garbage. But when it comes down to it, when you farm some good runes, eventually you can make even monsters with bad stats seem good. But what matters is the skill set. You know, she has a good skill set, and that's proven with other guys like Bella. Everyone knows Bella, but I mean he doesn't have the best stats, but he has a really good skill set, and that's what matters.
Cool. Yeah, that's pretty darn cool. And that's kind of goes to people that are listening. We'll get every month now we'll get that light and dark scroll, and sometimes we get a unit that we're not really um, too happy about or excited about. I always recommend just kind of holding on to it because you never know, how good it can do when you actually do, get your fair share of rune farming done and get an opportunity to play around with like that with like what with Berk did. Because I think it's pretty darn cool what you're doing with that unit, and I bet this guy can hit pretty darn hard. What's some of the top
Exactly.
numbers you've hit with?
Um, I've seen her hit for 10 to 15K. I mean, to be honest, I don't pay attention to numbers too much. I'm not a math guy. I just, see how much of the bar goes down and focus on that. I know it's horrible to admit, but
It's all
you
good.
know,
It's all good.
but I've actually used her on defense too, and it's surprising because I used the aforementioned Veramos, Verde, and Bella, and then I throw her in as the fourth, and it catches people off guard. Some big names have fallen victim because. And more so the big names, probably because they have so many extra stats to throw around in the runes that their units have unnecessarily high crit rate. So it triggers their passive so much more and catches them off guard. I mean, obviously, it's not something I recommend on a permanent basis, but it's fun to play around and just randomly switch up defenses. You know.
Cool. All right. And speaking of big old dark hitters, we have another unique unit to the game. Jubel, while most people go HP across the board, you've kind of taken a different route, kind of doing a little different, thought process on here and going HP, crit damage, HP. So can you kind of talk about your particular setup, the pros and cons of it, and why this could be beneficial to somebody listening today?
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I actually used to rune Darien like this too, but it fits Jubel better because mainly because of his passive. If you look at his passive, it reduces some of his damage that he takes. Obviously you're dependent on RNG, but in general, because of that passive, you can get away with less. And I love passives like this that allow you to cheat, and basically put your stats elsewhere. And vagabonds in general do that too because you get double the value off your HP stats, but in general, he can still live with less HP, and the crit damage will make him hit more because it and it's the last multiplier. So if you can get enough HP off of 2 runes and subs, then you can deal even more damage with the crit damage and still keep him alive thanks to the passive.
Gotcha. And do you, when you're utilizing this unit, do you use any kind of an HP leader, or is it pretty much just the HP tower that you got going on with with these stats?
Yeah, he's often paired with Veramos as lead, or in Guild Wars. One of the defenses that I use sometimes, not at the moment, is Escher lead with and he has the Guild War lead that he has now for HP, and
Yep.
with Chasun or Chasen as the heal. So yeah, it is helpful to have an HP lead, but even without the HP lead, he's still useful,
Mm-hmm.
just as crit damage because again the passive keeps him alive, and as long as he can stay alive, it's better to have him for the kill potential. On Sundays my AD is Velowell lead with Chloe once he gets her runes, Chasen and Jubel. And in that case, he doesn't have the HP lead, and that's my real AD during crunch time. But since the rest of the guys are mainly there to stall and keep the team alive, I'm dependent on him as my kill potential. So once he has crit damage on the floor, all he needs is 1 or 2 Vio and he can just straight up kill someone.
Okay.
And you get 3 guys that keep the team alive. All you got to do is wait until he goes crazy, and you can steal a win here or there.
Very cool, sir. Very cool. One of
And
these other units that just came around the board here, we just had a 7-day SD on it, the Fire Shark. I noticed that you have taken this one to the top here with this 6-star unit. Can you kind of talk about, what you utilize it for and, what you've been doing with it lately?
yeah, yeah. Well, first off, I got to give credit to this guy, or for this guy to the Decimator, my guildie. He was the one who 6-starred him first and recommended him to me. And he was telling me, "Hey, this guy's a pretty good despair stunner. Look at his skill set. Don't sleep on this guy." And I took a look, and yeah, I mean, his second, it hits everyone. It can decrease their power and speed. And he also has a deep break on his third, which is always useful. And I mean, the first skill at the time, I didn't think anything of it, but I've been trying to play with it since. Basically, with my build right now, I'm experimenting with speed, crit damage, HP, and I'm not completely sure I recommend this. I probably won't. It's completely experimental, but I'm running him with a Galleon now, who boosts attack. So I figure, okay, I got one guy who can boost attack, and his first will boost his crit rate. So maybe if I throw in a crit damage and have an HP room to keep him alive, I can have my pie needed too.
Right,
Keep him
right.
alive and have him deal damage. I'm not completely sure if it works, but it's still early in the week and I like to experiment.
Good deal. And it's kind of funny that
But
you say that, talking about experimenting. We were just getting ready to talk about your Guild War setup, and as you said, you utilize him in your setup here, so let's go ahead and bring it up.
oh yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk about your teams and, experimenting wise, what's your kind of goal with this first team, and then, of course, your second team.
Okay, so the first team, it's still early in the week, and I'm still experimenting, trying to find a better team. Yeah, I have teams that can win some of the time, but it's always good to try to do better, especially since early in the week the rankings don't really matter that much. Um, the first team, first off, I like elemental diversity if at all possible, because it doesn't matter as much in arena because if anything, you want to load up on fire because of the heavy Lucian metagame. But in arena, when you can only have one Lucian, and when you have like 20 guys, that can go up to 25 soon, that can choose to attack you, there's going to be someone who can load up on like one element. So if you go like heavy fire, there's going to be some guy in the guild who has a shitload of well-runed water units who can just eat through that. So you want to have something well-rounded, and so I tried to do that. Galleon has a guild battle leader skill for 24% speed. That's insane. Um, and he also gives an AoE deep break and buffs attack, and that's just really good. Deep break in general is really useful in PvP, especially in guild wars when it's just close combat. Um, in general, for every team, I like to have at least one deep break, one guy who can do damage, one guy who can, ideally, one guy who can heal, unless, in the case of this team, you're going for speed. And ideally, one guy for immunity, such as Veramos or Veluel, or even Delphoy, unless again you're going for speed. These rules can be broken, but ideally you want to have a game plan for everything. Speed can cancel out the need for immunity because you go so fast that you wear off the debuffs before they do anything. But ideally, you like to have those four elements, and since you only have three guys, you got some guys that do more than one role. But with this team anyway, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have Galleon buff the attack, and like I mentioned, I have Fire Shark with crit damage but no attack runes. Hopefully, getting that attack and the crit rate from his first. And Bernard, I'm just really hoping he tailwinds in the first turn. I mean,
Yeah,
if not, yeah, it could get a little difficult. But
yeah,
I mean,
I like it. So it's and the reason why I wanted to bring it up because he, one of the things that we do on these interviews, we kind of talk about some of the things we want to discuss. Right from the get go, he was like, "Yeah, I'm playing with this new team. I'm experimenting it," and I wanted to bring it out there because that's 100% real, guys. There is no right or wrong way of doing something. At the end of the day, it comes down to experimenting with what you have, the runes you have, the units you have, and just seeing what kind of yields you. Um, the end game thing here. And I want to see if I can show something here. If I can put it out there, I'll kind of use my own little setup here. So from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this obviously could be wrong. People can go into their guild battle logs, right? They can go down to their defenses, and they can basically, take a look at their guild battle log. I don't know if you do this a lot, but
yeah.
for somebody that's fighting me here, take a look at the wins here on the defenses, and I guess if I don't have one here, I won that one again. So when I take a look at, like, let's say Egypt, for example, I took a look at it, and we'll give a shout out to Razda. He was the one that kind of pointed me out to this. One win, one loss, and then of course when you turn it around for the person attacking me, one loss, one win. So from what this means to me is that the one loss initially was from the first attack, my first team, and then the one win that was from the second attack. Do I have that right? Since it's flipped around like that.
So, when you say win, you mean a win for Egypt?
Right. No,
Yeah.
no. Okay. So like, if you're looking at one win, one loss for Ija,
So that
like,
that means his first team won and his second defensive team lost.
good. Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
exactly what I'm trying
yeah,
to point out, guys. So
yeah,
to
exactly.
take note that this is something that I feel that people don't utilize it enough. Taking a look at the guild battle log and going down the row and seeing the trend. Are you losing a lot on your first team? Are you losing a lot of your second team? This is how you go about experimenting with various teams and units so that you can change your team and see if it yields you more wins. Now, of course, at the end of the day, the people that choose to attack you are generally the ones that feel that they have the confidence that they can take your team down. But again, you can always learn something from history. As you can see, it goes down for quite a few fights. So, any other recommendations or any kind of tips and tricks you have for the Guild Wars?
Exactly, but if you're just looking at your own, it's probably easier to if you go back to that screen, if you just hit the shield icon, and not this one. If you close this window and the defense shield, yeah, and then hit defense log, you can just go straight to yours, and it'll tell you.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so every time you change up your lineup, and you can see, every single time, like where when it says one loss, one win, yeah, then you'll know. All right, your second team won that one, but not the first. It looks like looks like your teams are pretty even.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, they're all over the place. I just made a switch on one of them, so
uh,
I don't know if it's doing better. It looks like it's
But yeah,
doing a little bit better.
if you're just looking at your teams, this screen's probably more convenient. The other one's better if you're watching over your whole guild. Hood is good, you know, and you should be doing that. You should be looking at your whole guild's defenses and making recommendations to each other, like, hey, this lineup's not working, you know, looking at units, why don't you try this? And, you know, we do that to each other all the time. You
Cool.
know, like Streak in our guild, he's like the lineup doctor. He's always telling us to change up our lineups. And we got Skeptics who's taking stats every week, and he's recording everyone's win loss ratios, and we're analyzing them so we can see, all right, what's working and what's not working. So, you know, the next week we can try to tweak it and make it better.
That's awesome. So it's kind of funny because again, I was telling Burke on the side that generally when we're doing these interviews, we probably have like 20 to 30 minutes of content, and then we figure out something. We start talking about something that we generally didn't plan on, but obviously this is something that definitely needs to be addressed because I feel that it's just one of those things, another one of those things out there that people just don't utilize enough. So I'm glad you kind of pointed it out because as you could see, I didn't even realize about the whole defense window. That makes it a lot easier for me. But yeah, that's
Sure.
pretty darn concept here. Let's see. So with regards to your team on this particular setup here, is there obviously you've kind of this team on the right you've played around with. Is there any other experimental teams that you've actually tried in the past that had some good success for you, or this pretty much it?
Yeah. Escher has always been great for me on defense, so I always try to pair him up with some kind of deep breaker. A team I used to have was I mentioned Escher, Jubel, and Chasen. And if not, I'll try Escher with Bernard, Escher with I used to use him with Bella a lot before Bella got stolen by this other team. But Escher is great, just with any deep breaker. Um, but let's see, I've tried various speed teams. You know, Tyrone is lead because in Guild Wars it's a lot faster. It's, a lot more close combat, and even if you lose, the threat of killing someone, so if they attack you first, so that they'll have one less guy to use versus the next guy, is also useful.
Yeah.
So that kill potential is extra valuable. So I've tried going like triple DPS lineups with Miho, who actually now has a guild battle leader skill too, 21% defense. Uh, you know, I've basically any sort of combination where you get one deep breaker, one guy you can deal damage, a healer, and if at all possible, an immunity guy. And if you got all four of those elements, that's your standard defense. Try it out.
All right. All right. Let's see here. I actually wanted to talk about something that we all get a chance to giggle about as we do in all these interviews. Your biggest epic fail, sir. What is the one thing that you
Uh,
could regret when it comes to this game and what you've done in the past?
all right. Well, I first started playing this game last October, and when I first started, the anchor of my AD was Water Werewolf. Yeah, again because of that tier list that said my Miho was useless, said that Water Werewolf was an S on defense, and I have to admit, up until I discovered Bella was, basically the same thing but better. Uh, the Werewolf wasn't bad. This was before the buff, so his third didn't scale off HP at the time. But he was still 5 stars, and he was one skill up short of being maxed. And I couldn't stand that, and I was out of werewolves. And I had one Jolton that I farmed from the SD, because, again, I was new. That was all I was able to farm. I barely made that 40 pieces. So I looked at the tier list, and they pretty much said he was useless. So I figured I'm never going to use him. There's no point in keeping him around for novelty. I'm in it for the PvP, and I'm not here to collect and like fill up my Pokedex or anything.
Right. Right.
So I just fed him, and yeah, I've never gotten another one since, and I deeply regret that.
Yeah. And here's a funny. I kind of want to point this out there because there is still a handful of people that do have it. You're pretty familiar with that skill set for Joltan.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now it has the skill on the third skill right that inflicts the damage back, 12% of max HP. You've kind of taken, a couple of your dark tanks have gone HP, crit damage HP. With a unit skill set like that, and I'll go ahead and just to make it easy for the people, since I actually got the unit here. With a particular skill set like that, where part of his added damage is that ability to inflict some damage on the HP back. Do you recommend HP across the board so he could take advantage of the damage based on the third skill there, or do you recommend trying to go HP crit damage HP so take advantage of the second skill?
I mean, I've never tested it myself, but if I had a Jolten, I would definitely go full HP based on that passive. I also believe he's especially useful as a dark tank on offense. Um, I'm not so sure I would trust him on defense, to be honest. He just doesn't seem to pose that much of a threat because people know his passive and can easily get around it, dodge him up and whatnot.
Right. Right.
Or I mean, leaving debuffs on him to deal damage over time and whatnot. But there's ways around that. But on offense, when the AI is going to send every light unit right at him, he makes a great tank. So I would just root him full HP, leave him out of defense, and then just bring him in offense and just absorb everything and just laugh.
I like it, and just laugh. All right. And how about this question for you? If there was one thing to change in the game, what would it be and why?
I would fix Arena. There is some corruption at the top, and there needs to be a fix to some of the mechanisms in Arena, and I really think it needs to be addressed because there are a lot of top players that have lost interest in either Arena or the game itself, and that's not healthy for the game. Even for those that might not be competing for a top spot, they're affected, and it's just fair play and the value of competition. You want to make it feel like that you're competing for something, and it's for a purpose.
Right.
And it just needs to be fixed.
Good deal. And how about some shout-outs? Any shout-outs you want to kind of give out to the people?
Yeah, I definitely got to shout out my guild. Again, when I mentioned I wasn't even level 40 when they took me in. I was just a scrub that they thought had potential, and I had the chow. And everything I know, I learn from them. Every time I come up with weird ideas, I bounce it off of them. And when you theory craft, you're gonna come up with a bunch of you're gonna come up with a bunch of really random theories, and some of them won't work. And it's nice to have a bunch of guys that'll tell you, hold on, that's a bad idea, and here's why. Like, that defense will get eaten apart, and here's why. Or maybe I'll suggest something and say that might work, but why don't you try this unit instead? And like a light bulb will go on. Hey, that's a great idea. Like I mentioned, the Fire Shark was recommended to me by my guildie Desi, and my other guild war defense, which we didn't, I guess, talk about as much, but Veramos, Bella, and Vertihile. That one's my proven defense that seems to win a lot, and that we call that the Demer defense because my guildie Demer started using that since week 1, and at first I was like, dude, what the hell is this guy doing? There's no damage in that team,
right?
But when you get enough speed, enough stuns, you got a little damage, and it works, And he started winning a lot, and then one by one, we all started copying him, and I give him full credit for that. And that's another thing that I would not have that team if it weren't for my guild. So everything I have in this game, I owe to my guild. Shoutouts to Malicious, past members too. We still keep in touch with the guys that left the game to go on to pursue real life things, and also to our sister guild in the Asia server. Phoenix Down. I hear they're doing well over there, and I'm happy for them. And yeah, they're still family too.
All right, and then of course the call-outs. Anybody that you would recommend to come on the show? The interview series. I'm a show. Yeah, no, I'm not a show, but yeah, anybody you want to bring a big baller shot caller over here. Anybody that we want to bring on that can have some insight for the people that have been listening for the last month or so. Anybody you can recommend?
Yeah, definitely. I got a couple of guys. First off, my guildie, the Decimator, who I mentioned a couple times earlier. You don't see him as much in high arena, although he can get there easily when he's bored. He was just a G3 last night, just for the hell of it. But he's normally just hanging out in slightly lower ranks, testing out new concepts. Uh, I think he's testing out multiple sharks, all three pirates. Anytime any new unit comes out, it's like a new toy to him, and he'll leave no stone unturned. And, he's like our library of information. So I would love to see what he has to say.
Okay.
And the other guy is Terraflux from the rival guild Shadowvar. Um, I'm not a math guy. I don't crunch numbers. Terraflux is. He based on watching the stream and seeing what he said on Reddit, that guy's a numbers guy, and he actually wrote an app that we use for Guild Wars. It feels kind of evil using it against him in Guild Wars when you go against Shadowvar, but he wrote like a calculator that helps calculate remaining HP based on the other team's attacks. So I know that guy's a numbers guy, and I just love to pick his brain and see what he has to say.
Cool. Yeah, we're definitely gonna get him on. I know I've talked to him in the past here. His schedule and my schedule kind of conflict, but we're gonna have to make some sacrifice on my end, I believe, to get him on board. But thank you for the recommendations. We'll go ahead and cut it off right there. I just want to give a quick thank you again to you to come on board and do this interview with me. I've actually learned quite a lot, and I'm looking forward to watching it over and over because I ain't gonna lie, that's what I do with all these series. So I appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot for having me, man. It's been an honor.
All right. And we'll go ahead and close it off right there, guys, before my computer blows up with no energy. It's your boy Childish and Berk420 with Childish Plays checking out. Take care. We will see you next time. We're out.
Peace, y'all.